Finish him. Or her?
Welcome. And today we'll dive into a couple of great pro-revenge stories and their reactions. Coming up we have Racist Karen calls the cops on my cousin, so I get her business closed down. Plus we have how my grandpa became the owner of a gas station and a garage. I just know you're gonna love these stories, so this should be a fun session. Hi, this is Derek. I just put the Drama Llama, Fred, back in his pen so that I can do this quick video for you with some of the stuff that Fred found on Reddit earlier today. If this is your first time watching our videos, help me out by watching to the end, and then giving me some feedback in the comment area below. I do respond to every single one, so don't be shy. And if you want more of these videos daily, don't forget to like and subscribe, with notifications turned on for this channel. Oh boy, let's get ready for some deep-seated revenge. Whispers and roars posted. Racist Karen calls the cops on my cousin, so I get her business closed down. My cousin, 23, female, recently opened up her own salon. From a young age, she taught herself how to thread and wax eyebrows, and developed an interest in makeup and hair. Everyone in our extended family would go to her before events, and on a monthly basis, for their threading, waxing, hair, and makeup needs. In 2020, she had a full-time job, non-salon related, but decided to renovate the basement of her home to create a small salon space. She now spends her free time taking clients in her at-home salon, and there's nothing but great reviews. Her sister helped with the renovations, and now helps her with marketing the business, social media, community pages. And I help with the finances, budgeting, price setting. We all support her and are really proud of her. The salon is our baby. We're now in the middle of a pandemic, and this greatly affected her salon business. As a result, she implemented safety measures, and our small team made sure to keep up with COVID regulations in our city. This included having one customer inside at a time, doing temperature checks, making masks and face shields and gloves mandatory, wiping down the salon after each client, etc. Also, when our city was in lockdown, the salon was closed as it is not an essential service. The incident. Our city is once again in lockdown since the end of December, to the end of January. The salon has been closed since the lockdown began. The salon's social media pages had been updated, to let the current clients know that the salon is closed. Now comes the Karen. Karen sees a community post from October, detailing a discount, that the salon was having on a certain package we offer. She comments on the post, saying that she can't believe the salon is open in the middle of a lockdown, when her salon has to be closed. This is important for later. Karen fails to notice that this post was made in October, when salons were allowed to operate as long as they followed safety regulations. Karen doesn't bother checking more recent posts indicating that the salon was closed. My cousin doesn't see her reply at this time. The next day, 2 police officers show up at my cousin's door, while she's at a doctor's appointment. The officers ask for my cousin, and my aunt lets them know that she's not home right now. My aunt does not speak English very well, and lets the officers know that she would call my cousin, and ask her to come home. Maybe the officers didn't believe her, but they insisted on coming inside the home. My aunt had already called my cousin as she was worried. My cousin asked what it was about, but my aunt didn't know. My cousin then asked if they had a warrant for anything. When she found out they didn't, she told her mom not to let them come inside, and that she would be there in about 20 minutes. My cousin began driving home when my aunt called her, to let her know that they simply left. Hearing this, my cousin was less worried and decided to go grocery shopping, as planned before heading home. Turns out, the officers came back half an hour later, and once again demanded to see my cousin. My aunt called my cousin again, and asked her to come home, but in the 20 minutes she took to come home, the officers were gone. They had left a card and asked her to call back. My cousin managed to get a hold of the officers, and was told that someone had reported her business. They claimed that she was operating during the lockdown, and they had proof. My cousin knew this wasn't true as the salon had been closed for quite a while. By now, my cousin had seen the comment from earlier and mentioned that she knew exactly what their so-called proof was, but the post in question was from October. My cousin was very upset, as this post was not even close to being actual evidence of her operating now, in January. She was also very upset that they insisted on coming inside the house with no cause or warrant. when they could clearly see that my aunt does not understand the language very well. At the end of the conversation, the police officer apologized to my cousin, and we thought it was the end of it. You must be wondering how we know that Karen was the one who called the cops. Well, she told us. The next day, my cousin received a message. She realized it was from the woman who commented on the post. Karen decided to pretend like she's a customer. Karen, can I book an appointment? My cousin, hey love, we are currently closed due to the lockdown. Once the lockdown is over, we will be more than happy to book you in. Karen, oh my girlfriend was there yesterday, my apologies. My cousin, you must have gotten the date wrong. The salon is not taking clients until the lockdown is over. Thank you. Karen, no problem, but I didn't get the date wrong lol, I also know the police came due to you being open. Take care. My cousin, I'm not going to sit here and entertain your boring life. Maybe for a change, you can find another hobby rather than spreading lies and wasting people's time, including the police's time. Or even better, find an actual job. Have a good night. Karen, I own my own spa that's closed, as should yours be. My mom is the one who called the cops. You are not entertaining me at all. Go back to your own country instead of screwing with ours. My cousin decided to block her at this point. My cousin was happy this was all over. Her sister and I were still outraged at the racist comment and how someone could make up lies about a small business that led to the cops terrifying my aunt. When my cousin told me about Karen, the fact that she had her own spa really stood out. I did some digging. Revenge. Turns out Karen runs her own spa out of her house. Doing some more snooping, I found reviews from her clients on her business page that were posted on days that the city was under lockdown. The reviews could be from clients who received services before the lockdown and only now had a chance to write a review. To be sure, I found Karen's Instagram page. I decided to use her own trick against her. I created a new account with a generic name and followed her page, so she couldn't see that I was related to my cousin. I then messaged her to ask about the prices for her services. Me, hey, I love your pics. I was wondering how much you charge. Karen, hey girl, thank you so much. What service are you after? Me, I'm really interested in the BB Glow facial. Karen, that's awesome. My biggest seller for sure. Normally it's $125, but it's on BOGO, so you pay for one session and get two. Me, that's such a great deal compared to others. When is your next available date? Karen, where are you located? I can't have people come to me in lockdown, but I travel to my clients. Karen was not operating from her home location due to lockdown restrictions, but was traveling to her clients' homes, which is still against regulations. I then made up a lie about my home not having adequate space and asked for her address, so we could meet up at my friend's place somewhere between her and I's locations. She foolishly told me her address. During this time, I also tried joining other community groups that she was a part of. In one particular group, people in the community were promoting their small businesses. She had recently made a post about discounts on her services for the month of January. I immediately went online and submitted a report about her business, still operating, including screenshots, her address, full name, etc. A few days passed by, and I had forgotten to check up on it as I was busy with life again. I saw the incident report number on a sticky note I had on my desk, and decided to check in. Apparently, this was not Karen's first offense. Karen had already been fined $750 for having a client in her home during the first lockdown in my city. After being fined, she decided to change her business model and go to the client's home instead. Now, she was fined $10,000. I was still following her on Instagram, so I decided to check it out. She had gone on a rant about how she was going to do very bad things to the person who reported her. She also mentioned that she was no longer allowed to run her business. I'm not sure what type of ban the regional police put on her, but I immediately deleted the account and exited the groups I had joined earlier. At the end of the day, Karen got what she deserved, and I fulfilled my dream of pretending to be Sherlock Holmes. Edit. Wow, thank you to everyone who took the time to read the story. I'll try replying to your comments as soon as I can. I've called my cousin and sent a link to her, so she can also read through the comments too. Edit 2. I noticed that some people didn't believe the fact that the woman was racist. This subreddit does not allow pics, so I've replied to their comments. What are your thoughts on this incredible story? Please share in the comments below. Now here's how some Reddit members reacted to this story. I1 reacted with: "It's always amazed me how people in glass houses love to throw stones. And she'll never understand the irony, she'll always play the victim on this one." AgeH31 reacted with: "Reverse Uno pretty much." What a bunch of great reactions. Now on to the next story posted by ROK Expat. Who posted: "How my grandpa became the owner of a gas station and garage. My family immigrated to America in the 1880s and settled in Nebraska. We were farmers for the first 80 years or so, but back in the 1960s, my great-grandma decided she was going to sell the entire farm before she died and simply give her sons 1/3 of the money for inheritance. When she passed, she had 3 sons. In 1969, my great-grandma passed, and her 3 sons inherited the money she had earned from selling the farm. My grandpa decided he would basically let that money sit until after he retired from the military. In 1971 he deployed to Vietnam for his second and final deployment. At the end of his deployment, he returned to Nebraska and retired after 22 years in the service. Now he had an old Chevy truck at the time, and was in the process of building a concrete business, with the money he had gotten from his inheritance. Well, during this time, his truck engine blew up. My grandpa was busy at the time, and he didn't want to fool with the truck cause he was busy. So he bought himself the engine he wanted to replace it with, which was an upgrade, and he went down to the only garage in town, and asked them if they'd be willing to put the engine in the truck. They agreed on a price, and told him to come back in a week or so. A week later my grandpa comes back and picks up the truck. He admits he felt like a fool for not double-checking the work, but assumed since this was the son of his friend that the son would do right by him. This was a small town. Well, my grandpa opens up the concrete business, and he's busy, and it comes time for his first oil change. This is about 4 months after he got the truck back. He's doing the oil change and he notices that the engine he bought isn't the engine in his truck. It's a smaller engine. This obviously pisses him off to high heaven, as my grandma liked to say. So he storms down to the garage and talks to the shop. Earl was the owner. Earl comes out and denies any wrongdoing. Says he did as he was told, and it shouldn't have taken him 4 months to bring the issue up. My grandpa tells Earl he needs to do what's right. Earl refuses. It's important to note, this is a small town. Written contracts, and so forth, really aren't a thing. Your worth is your word. My grandpa tells Earl he's going to get him for this. Earl laughs and tells him to leave his shop. My grandpa goes down to the county, and requests the record, for who owns that gas station. Turns out it's an old family friend named Harold. My grandpa stops by Harold's house, and starts inquiring about the business deal Harold has with Earl. Harold says well, Earl rents the gas station and garage from him. My grandpa asks Harold how is everything going, and Harold confides that Earl hasn't paid his rent in 2 months. My grandpa asks, do you have a written lease with Earl? To which Harold goes, nah, I sure don't. My grandpa then asks, what if I bought the gas station and garage from you? Harold isn't completely on board with the idea, but my grandpa makes a strong point. Earl isn't paying his rent. Harold doesn't seem like he has much interest in being a landlord anymore. And my grandpa has the cash to buy the place outright. Harold, sensing something is up, asks my grandpa, did Earl do something to you? You seem awfully interested in this garage. Ain't you busy with that concrete business of yours? And my grandpa fills Harold in on the story. My grandpa also mentions that he has a son, my father, who needs something to do, and he'd be happy to buy the whole building from Harold for a fair price, and what happens after that is his business. Also, it is important to note, when Harold decided to rent this business to Earl, in that deal went all the equipment and tools that Harold had acquired over the years, so those belonged to the building. Harold and my grandpa came to a number that they both agreed on. A few days later my grandpa paid Harold in cash, in full, for the business. The paperwork is done, and my grandpa is now the proud owner of a gas station and mechanic shop. Now, my grandpa senses that Earl ain't going to be too pleased when my grandpa fires Earl. So for extra good measure, my grandpa calls up the local sheriff, who is a high school friend, and asks the sheriff to come with him to break the news to Earl. So my grandpa and the sheriff go down to Earl's now former business, and they walk in, and before my grandpa can even say hello, Earl says, "Now I told you, I didn't cheat you." My grandpa smiles and says, "I'm not here about my truck, I'm here to fire you." Earl, with a look of confusion on his face, asks, "You can't fire me. I own this business." My grandpa shows him the title and says, "I'm now the owner of this building," to which Earl fires back, "But I got a deal with Harold," and the sheriff speaks up, "You do? Do you have a lease?" "Well, no," Earl says, to which the sheriff smiles and says, "In that case, you're going to need to take your stuff and leave." Earl is fuming, pissed, grabs his toolbox, and storms out. My grandpa ended up hiring the mechanic that would occasionally work on his trucks at his concrete business. He had my aunt and grandma run the gas station full time, and my dad would work there after school. We owned that garage for 25 years before my grandpa sold it to someone else. Now here's how some Reddit members reacted to this story. Stumbling Shrink reacted with, "I live in a small town and you can't deal dirty like that with people, especially locals. That kind of information will spread like wildfire." And finally, Stormy8888 reacted with, "Never mess with ordinary looking people, you never know how much money they might have to ruin you with." Well, there you have it. A perfectly great question answered by a bunch of fine and honorable citizens. Help support this channel by smashing the like and subscribe buttons. And hit that silly little bell as well to ensure you get the latest videos as they come out. Fred is always finding stuff for me to post regularly. So this is Derek signing off, thanks for watching. Good grief, it sounds like Fred is out of his pen again. I think he found more drama for me to share with you. See you soon.